How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today what we're going to be doing is another community questions one, but the question that I put on there today was, what did you find the most difficult to learn in RuneScape? Why? And what did you do to get past it? So I know the comments in this, a lot of them aren't going to actually be given the why and what did they do, but that's okay. What we'll do is we'll pick the ones that do have that, and then also we'll go through and pick some other ones as well, and I'll just give a bit of information on ways that you can go about doing that. So that's absolutely fine. But I want to say thank you to everyone who did leave a comment on this, and if you do get into the video, then congratulations to you. That's freaking awesome. But I really do appreciate you guys getting involved in these community question videos. It's always really nice to see, and of course they are super easy for me to make, and you guys are doing me a massive favor, especially while I'm working on mobile data. Anyway, if you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's get going, shall we? Alright, so the first comment says, learning how or when to use defensive abilities and figuring out comfortable keybinds. I still struggle with both, honestly. So this is actually something that I know a lot of people actually struggle with. Using defensives at the right time or knowing when to actually use what defensive is a big thing, because a lot of people don't really use defensives until you get towards endgame bossing, right? You kind of want to use them at places like God Wars 2, but before that, there's not really any reason to use them at all. Like, there really isn't. The only defensive you may use before that is... what, like an anticipate maybe at a push, but you don't really need to use it, I don't think. So God Wars 2 is like the entry place to start using defensives, and even then you'll use things like the best you're probably gonna use resonance, and that's probably it actually. Resonance, maybe devotion at Vindicta as well for the range hit, but otherwise it's definitely something that a lot of people don't pick up until later on. But then you get yourself to the end game and suddenly you need to be using your defensives a whole lot. Like, you need to be using them or else you're going to die. That is just the way it's going to be. But a lot of people don't actually know when to use them or how to use them or basically what they do. All I can suggest with this is knowing when to use them and how to use them is going to come with practice, and you need to sort of read through your abilities and fully understand how they work, and then eventually you will pick it up over time where you just sort of react to it. You'll notice something's coming, you'll see a big hit coming, you know it's about to happen, and suddenly you'll just be like, right, I'm going to res this one, it's going to heal me, and if it's typeless it's going to go to 0, and if anything else I'll use reflect and debilitate. If I don't have resonance ready, you will adjust this. It's something you will get over time. It does take a long time to do, but it's something I know you'll be able to do, so just keep at it, trust me. The knowing when and how to use them, the main thing is knowing exactly what the abilities do, and then you will eventually put them into practice and you will get there. As for keybinds and stuff, this is going to be completely dependent to you. There's not much I can suggest. All I can say is for myself, I put all of my defensives on an alt modifier keybind. Now, what I mean by an alt modifier is if I press alt plus another key, and that'll allow me to use my defensives. And I tried my best to put as many of the defensives on the letters that made sense. So barricade is on alt and B for barricade, devotion is on alt and D, and things like that. Reflect is on alt and R. But then some of the other ones aren't on that at all, so you just sort of run out of keys at that point. But what I'll suggest you do is maybe have, if you're going to have them on a modifier like alt or shift or control, then have them all on that, so it makes more sense. So you know that when you want access to do defensives, you always are going to be pressing alt and then a different key. That way it gives it a little bit easier of understanding where your abilities are, and it might be a bit easier for you to follow as well. But like I say, keybinds are very personal, something you'll have to figure out yourself. So just give it a shot. You will get used to it, but again, it's going to take practice and a lot of time, but you can definitely do it. Keep at it, dude. The next comment actually comes from Chak, so thank you to you, dude. But you say, realizing that instead of spam eating constantly, if I concentrate more on doing damage, I will eat less, aka the best defense is a good offense. This is something that I actually struggled with as well. It really was. I actually spent so long just filling up my yak with like 1-to-1 brew and rocktail, so I'd have 1 brew, 1 rocktail throughout the whole thing, and I'd end up using most of that throughout most fights. I just used to eat a hell of a lot. It was ridiculous. But getting rid of the yak and just jumping on like a Nihil or a Ripper Demon, you actually notice that doing that extra damage and saving the extra minute or two in a fight can actually save you so much food. You tend to use a lot more food because you're in the fight a lot longer. But also, eating through your food drops your adrenaline, so it's going to slow down the kill that way as well. And there's just a lot more to it than the fact that you're doing more damage. There's a lot more to it in the fact that you got more accuracy. You can get through phases quicker, so you've got more downtime between, like, for example, next. You get through the phases a hell of a lot faster, so you're spending less time in the ice prison, so you're using way less food in that phase, less time in the blood phase as well. And honestly, like, this applies to most bosses. If you can get through without using a ton of food, or you can replace your food with, like, blue blubber jellyfish and just focus on more damage, you will end up using less food as well. It helps out a hell of a lot. So this is definitely something that a lot of people will struggle with and do struggle with. I know they do for a fact because I was there, Jack said he was there as well, and I know that this is something that a lot of people do struggle with. What I do suggest you do is, even if you think there's no way you can come off of a yak at a certain boss, just give it a shot. Try and use a nihil, try and use a ripper demon wherever you are, whatever's best. See if it works. Just do it for 1 or 2 kills, make sure you've got your ring of death, and if it works, if it goes well, then happy days. If it doesn't and you are still needing to put a bit more practice in, because you absolutely may need to, that's okay, that's absolutely fine, then go back to your yak, put more practice in, and then try again later, maybe like a week or something later. But you can definitely do this, and it does help. Having DPS, increasing your DPS and focusing on that and getting faster kill times will save you food, which eventually saves you a lot of money as well. The next comment comes from Goldsmith, and he says, trying to learn key bindings and full manual. Just difficult at first to try and do boss mechanics while also keeping in mind rotations. I'm still learning or struggling, but hopefully eventually I'll get the hang of it. So a lot of people struggle with going from Revolution to full manual. It is just a big change. It really is, because obviously Revolution uses 90% of your abilities and you'll just use the extra 10% yourself, whether it's thresholds or just defensives or something like that. Maybe you even have Revo plus and then you're going from 100% down to like doing nothing at all. So you've got to do it all yourself. This is a big change, and for people who don't have experience with using keybinds, personally, I played a lot of like MOBAs and stuff, so I was used to using keybinds, and it's not something too new to me, so I was okay with it, and I've played a lot of other MMOs as well. But for people who don't come from that, who've just played RuneScape or play like shooter games and then tried out RuneScape, going from Revolution to full manual is a big step, it really is, but it's something that is worth doing if it's what you want to do. It will help you increase your DPS, it will give you more control over your character, and it will help out in a lot of situations. That being said, the way I always suggest to people to actually learn full manual is to keybind everything yourself. As in, don't copy someone else's keybinds. Yes, you can do that for a reference check and whatnot, and where to actually put the action bars and stuff, like the layout of your UI. You can copy that, absolutely. But when you're setting keybinds, set them yourself and put them in a personal way that you understand yourself. Because if you don't, when you're in a mid-fight, you're going to have to be sort of looking down and seeing, what's the next ability that I need to use? Where's the keybind? What's the keybind for resonance, for example? If you set it yourself and you actually think through and think like, right, what keybind do I want resonance to be on? You'll remember it a hell of a lot easier than if you've just copied someone else's. If someone copies all of my keybinds right now, they will probably really struggle to be able to know exactly where all the keybinds are, right? They'll have to look at it and learn it a hell of a lot in comparison to if you just reset them all yourself, then you could sort of have an idea of where most of them are because you've set them yourself. So that's the first thing you want to do. Make sure you've set all the keybinds up yourself so you know exactly where they are. And then secondly, you just want to start off at lower level bosses and just gradually add different things to it. A great place to start is Vindicta, as it's not too punishing and it's a DPS dummy, and it is a great place to practice rotations. So what you would do is go in and just practice your basic abilities, get used to your basic ability rotation, then maybe every now and again drop Sunshine just so you can keep getting that adrenaline to go up and up, or Death Swiftness, Berserk, whatever it is for you. And then after that, add 1 threshold, add 2 thresholds, add 3, then start using defensives, and then all the other stuff, and just add them in one at a time. Once you're used to what you're adding, then move on to the next one. Don't rush it, don't get stressed out if it's taking you a while. It takes a long time for a lot of people, took a long time for me, and I've got a lot of experience with keybinds and stuff as well. So if you are struggling with it, don't sort of beat yourself up about it. Just take your time, you will get there, but yeah, just work on it slowly, set your own keybinds, you'll be fine. The next comment says, learning a new boss in general, not new releases, just something I haven't done before. New rotations, new mechanics, trying to watch guides that are helpful but go way too fast for a learner, or feeling like a burden when you go with someone to learn doesn't make it any better. Thankfully, free death weeks were a thing, and so I could throw myself at a boss and eventually get it. But if not, I probably would have lost so much money because of that. There's so much good in this comment and I actually love it. It's absolutely brilliant, and I relate so much in here. So basically, learning a new boss in general with things like new mechanics and rotations and stuff, yes, this is difficult because it's stuff you're just not used to. If it's a brand new mechanic, something that you've never dealt with, because a lot of mechanics in some bosses sort of carry over to others, especially now that they've released quite a lot of different endgame bosses. However, if you're getting into the new endgame bosses yourself and you've not really seen anything from them at all, then yes, some of the mechanics are going to be really difficult to learn. There's timings, there's using the right abilities in the right order, making sure you're stood in the right places, all that sort of stuff. It's really important, and if you do make mistakes, you can be punished so damn fast. So this can definitely be something that you struggle with. But something to keep in mind is you're not alone with this. You're definitely not. There's going to be so many people that have struggled with the same thing. I can tell you I did as well. I definitely did. but you will definitely get there. Keep trying, and trust me, it's just practice. Suddenly it'll become like a natural thing for you to do, and you'll just find it no problem whatsoever. As for watching guides that are helpful but go way too fast for a learner, I can totally understand this, and I usually try to keep this in mind when making guides. I kind of rant a little bit too much, but I do that because I like to explain everything. Like, if there's anything that I've ever thought about when I was learning this boss, I like to include it. Now, I know a lot of people don't like that, but I know it does help out the people who don't like the stuff that sort of cut really quickly through, right, this is what you need to do, you just have to do this at this time, and that is it. So, yeah, but I totally understand this, and I don't necessarily really like watching boss guides myself either when I go places. I like to just sort of get a quick rundown of how things work. People tell me about how to do it as we go through it. I just kind of seem to learn from that a little bit better from experience. Also, the feeling like a burden when you go with someone to learn doesn't make it any better. I don't know if you've watched my recent video about Crypt Bloom, but if you haven't, then you're saying the exact same words as what I said in there. You really are. I was saying that I have always wanted to learn places like Solak or Farago, but before having Crypt Bloom, I was always just a DPS, and even though I wasn't as good of a DPS as some people, and even though the people who were taking me really weren't bothered by it, they literally were absolutely fine with it, I felt like I was a burden. It was something personally with myself that made me feel like I was the one holding them back. I felt like I was giving them slower kill times, and even though they weren't bothered, I just felt bad. It kind of put me off wanting to go, just because why should I have to make them waste their time, right? So I totally understand where you're coming from with this, as I was exactly the same, and probably kind of still am, to be honest. But my solution to that was obviously getting Crypt Bloom and just tanking stuff myself. That is probably not good advice to give to everybody, because it's just not going to help that many people. What I can suggest is getting in a clan, making sure you feel comfortable in that clan, or finding some friends that do PVM, and just accept the fact that if they invite you to go knowing that you are the skill level that you are, then they do not care. They are absolutely fine with it. I still totally understand where you're coming from. It is definitely something that you'll have to sort of just get used to, but over time you will get used to it and you'll sort of fit in. And when you start getting better at the boss itself, because they've had lots of kills, you've had nearly none, when you start improving and getting more kills under your belt, you'll be doing a lot better and you feel a lot more comfortable. As for Free Death Week, it was absolutely awesome, and honestly, I wish they would do it more often, or just rework the practice mode. Practice mode really needs a rework, where it's not completely a waste of time for people to do it. I don't know, whether they just make it so you can't get any rare drops, maybe, if you get through a kill. That might be the best way to do it, but I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about practice mode? Does it need reworking, and how would you do it? The next comment says, last tick Rezo or Devotion. Always gets me killed. If only defensives had a separate global cooldown to offensives. I don't know about this one. So I completely understand using Devotion and Resonance at the right time. It is a pain in the ass. The biggest thing for me was actually at Telos when I was trying to res the hold still, and I kept missing up the time. Like, I really kept screwing it up. It was really driving me insane. But this is actually what made me change from using Revolution to going to full manual. The reason being is, if you're not using full manual already, what I suggest you do is give it a try, because what you can do is just not use any abilities when you know that spec or whatever is about to happen, and that way it is always ready to go. So if you use another ability, you aren't on global cooldown because you just sort of stood there and waited, right? So the problem you might be running into is, if you're on Revolution, you may be trying to time like a Rezo or a Devotion, and it's just not going off because of global cooldown, because your character's used an ability already. But if you just have full manual, you can just literally just wait. Just don't press anything. Your character will auto attack, and you know the ability is about to come. So hold still is about to come from Telos, for example. You can just press Resonance at the right time, and that is how I learned the timing on it. And then eventually you can get more confident. You can slowly start like using an ability closer to the thing, closer to the spec or whatever you're waiting for, and then pushing your sort of limits on it. Eventually you will get used to the timing. You just will. If you're already on full manual, then you're in the same position. Just literally wait it out, wait for the thing to happen, then use it, and that way you've got a little bit easier of a timing to do. And then eventually you can start getting used to when the timing sort of is, you can sort of get a good feeling for it, and then you can start doing abilities before that. There's still times now though that I will literally just not use an ability when I know something's about to come, because it just makes my life a bit easier. Especially at Zuck, for example, with the meteor attack thing, you can res that to reduce the damage to 0. I actually just wait a second or two before that's about to happen, and as soon as it does happen, I'll use my res, because if that's on cooldown, rip, that hurts so much. But overall, this just comes down to practice, getting used to timings on bosses and stuff. But I don't know if having defensives as a separate global cooldown would be a good thing. I think that would be ridiculously overpowered and probably remove quite a lot of the skill cap to the game. And even though I know the combat and stuff is quite confusing, I don't think removing the skill cap is definitely something that you want to do. Our next comment comes from Ryan Etchie, and he says, PVM in general is difficult for me. I still click food and pots like it's 2007, but just practicing at bosses will eventually get you a kill where you thought never possible. 1 kill count, by the way. So this is actually really good, and honestly it is great advice. So PVM in general for a lot of people is difficult. It really is. Some people struggle with it. It's just something that they're not really used to. If maybe you've been a skiller, or maybe you haven't really done PVM since EOC came out, maybe you got put off by it, you didn't quit the game, but you stuck around and you just did stuff that wasn't PVM because you just thought, it's not really for me. So people are still clicking food, clicking potions. I know this is a thing. A lot of people still even click prayers and stuff. Now, what I'm going to say about this is, if it works for you, if you're comfortable with it, then just don't change it. Just do whatever you want to do. What I would suggest you do though is try keybinds for that sort of stuff. Try it. If it doesn't work, if you're not feeling it, if it doesn't just immediately go, this is amazing, then just do what you're doing. Like you can stick to it however you want to do it. There's plenty of PVMers that will do better than me, and they are not using keybinds for a lot of stuff, like their soul split flicking with clicking prayers and stuff, and I don't understand how they do it, but they do. So you don't have to use keybinds for everything, like your food and your potions and stuff. You absolutely don't. It will help out a lot though, if you can get used to it. So I'll suggest giving it a shot really quickly, seeing if it sort of feels comfortable, and if not, then just sack it off, but that's fine. Also, you say just practice at bosses will eventually get you a kill. This is definitely true. So people sort of give up very quickly at bosses and think, it's down to my gear. I don't have the gear for it. I can't 4-tick, or I can't do this and I can't do that. That's just not how it works. Practice. Keep practicing. Use things like free death wheat when we do get one. Use things like your ring of death. Ring of death is so cheap at the moment. Just abuse the crap out of it. If you also sort of don't feel bad about using practice mode, then use practice mode as well, even though it does need a rework. Use practice mode so you're not risking anything there. And I can guarantee you, even though you may be sitting there thinking it's taking me way too long to learn this boss, you are not on your own. I've said this in the past one as well, but it has taken people so long to learn certain bosses too. It took me, I am not even joking, months to learn Telos, and I'm still not even that good at him now. I'm definitely a lot better than I was, but learning Telos, actually being able to push my enrage and getting the Warden title and stuff, took me months on end of just throwing myself at the boss and dying, throwing myself at the boss and dying. But you know what? That's actually a lot of the fun of RuneScape. It really is. Like, it's frustrating as hell. It really freaking is, and you can get burnt out really quickly. But learning stuff in this game, for me personally at least, is where a lot of the fun comes from. So don't sort of write it off too quick. Keep trying, keep practicing, and you will definitely get there. So I just want to say, most of the things that I've gone through here and reading through most of the other comments, it does come down to practice, and it does come down to just sort of putting the time in and getting used to stuff. And it's definitely stuff that even if you're struggling with it now, or if you were struggling with it before, there's all definitely stuff that you can get past just with practice, time and effort. And I know you guys can do it. Even if you think right now it's not going to happen, trust me, the time that you think it takes to actually do stuff, maybe double it, maybe even triple it. That's just how long it takes. It takes a lot longer than you think. Some people, it doesn't take that long at all, but personally for me and for other people that I know, it takes a lot of time and effort to do it. But when you do manage to get there, trust me, it's very much worth it. You can go from earning like 5 mil an hour, going all the way to earning things like 50, 60 mil an hour, getting really lucky, getting 1 bill drops and stuff. But it's going to take time, it's going to take effort, it's going to take a lot of practice, and it's going to take a lot of frustration. You'll definitely get there though. That being said, we're going to do one more because it is something that is not related to that whatsoever. And then after that, we'll do our outro and end the video there. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a like on the video because it helps out a lot. Let's see what Kaolin has to say. Kaolin says, being efficient with my GP. I'm too eager to buy shiny things. Now, I know Kaolin, and he's definitely not wrong. Honestly, he likes his shiny things. He definitely does. And his Dragon Override is absolutely killing it, so that's awesome to see. But I completely get this, and honestly, there's two sides to this, right? It's definitely something that is a challenge or something that you struggle to get past because you're sort of thinking, I want to get to endgame, I want to get the best gear, but you constantly find yourself spending the money on other stuff that didn't really need to be spent on, and you may lose money if you try and sell it back, or you just end up not getting the stuff that you should be getting, right? And while that's an issue if you want to reach endgame, honestly, it's not that big of a deal, because if that's what you enjoy, you're playing a game at the end of the day. If you are enjoying these things, these shiny things, then buy more of them, because that's what you're enjoying, and that's the important thing, right? You play the game however you want to play. You don't have to be a PVM, you don't have to be efficient. Freaking hell, we know you don't have to be efficient, because look at me, look how high I play the game. Not efficient at all. So just do whatever you want to do, and honestly, Kaolin, if you want to spend all your GP on shiny things, then just freaking spend it all on shiny things. I love seeing your overrides anyway as you run places, so I'm pretty sure you'll keep spending your money on shiny things rather than upgrading all your gear anyway, so I'm looking forward to seeing what your next override is. Anyway, guys, like I said, that is going to be our last comment for this video. I nearly forgot what comments were then, but anyway, that's fine. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. As always, thank you to my channel members for the extra support. I really appreciate it. Your guys' names will be on screen right now. And if anyone else is interested in joining the channel members, you do get perks as well while you support the channel, and it's obviously really appreciated. It does help out a hell of a lot. But anyway, if you want to join that, click the join button by the sub button, and you will be able to see what perks you do get while you support the channel. Finally, but not least, if you are someone who has got this far, then you are obviously someone who really enjoys all the videos. So if you aren't already subbed to my second channel, my Shorts YouTube channel, you can get extra content from myself by subscribing to that. There'll be a link in the pinned comment probably, and the description as well. So go ahead and subscribe to that, and there'll be lots of shorts and stuff from streams in the future. So if you do miss any of the streams, there'll be lots of little funny clips there, alongside some other shorts that are unique content that I make as well. So if you are interested in that, give that a subscribe too. We're going to push that as far as we can. Otherwise, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.